as a high schooler being told like, oh, college isn't for you. Why don't you just go to work? Or even in undergrad, oh, grad school's not for you. You just got to find something you're going to do with your bachelor's degree. It's like, well, no, I got to find opportunity and find a path there. And sitting with that fear, I think is something I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
I love what you said earlier when you're like, oh, I'm so proud of that 20-year-old you. It's still ringing in my head. And I want to go to those different ages of myself and my parts to really let them know that, so they can hear that from myself, right? I mean, great that you all said it, but for myself, because I think that is, feeling proud of different parts of different seasons of your life or different ages even. But I think that really resonated with me, and my present self, I feel very proud of. And I think I have done a lot of my decisions that I've made. A lot of them have been, thankfully, more recently, more of my true self versus other parts maybe deciding for me, if you will. And I think that has been a long journey for me. And it's not that I get it right all the time, but I feel like more and more as I'm getting older, these decisions now are coming from a central core of me. And it's hard to distinguish those parts of myself when they come out, when they don't come out. But I think now I'm getting a little better at it. And so when I hear you say, oh yeah, I'm so proud of that 20-year-old self. Yeah, I very much am proud of that 20-year-old self. I think that was a big pivot in how I viewed myself. And if you want to use like a video game thing, then I unlocked other parts of myself that were able to now develop.
Yeah.
Right. And I've used that, and I've thankfully been able to do this career that I've chosen to be a therapist. And I love it. It's something that I've always, I think, just naturally been good at. And if, I'm making a career of it and I'm earning my livelihood from it, it feels really good. Especially when, I don't know if your audience have heard this, if you're in the field or not, but especially when you hear like, oh, if you're going to be a therapist, then you better have another plan to make money because you ain't going to do it that way.
We do hear that a lot.
You hear that so much, like, oh, and not to say that's about money, but I think that idea, right, just is very limiting, right? And it's, well, you want to do what you want to do to fulfill that inner part of yourself and be able to make livelihood from it. And I feel so proud that I've been able to do that. With help along the way, for sure. But I feel very proud of that.
That's beautiful. I think of, I love that you're all encouraging kind of thinking about your current self and being proud of this version too, and not waiting for the future to then be proud of this version of you. But I think what I will share is that I don't necessarily think a lot about current Kaylee. I think more like whenever I feel scared, I often think about maybe grad school Kaylee, because whenever I'm feeling scared or whenever I am unsure, I think of her because she was a little badass, like it was almost like college, like undergrad was so trying for that Kaylee. And then I feel like when I got to grad school, I was like, agárrense que ahí vengo, right? Like, grab your seats, I'm coming. Like, I just became more daring. I became more, I don't know, like, I just went for things. And it was also a season of my life where I was single and I got to know me. I think had been 4 years of being kind of on my own. I would go home a lot during undergrad. But at that point I was like, okay, like this is more of me, kind of like you're saying. And whenever in current form I get scared or I'm like, oh my gosh, can I do this? I always think of her because I'm like, there was so much that Kaylee still didn't know, but she was willing to go for it. So I'm really proud of her. But yeah, I am proud of where we're at today too. So, no sé, so much of our stories, right? Like, it's about how we remember it. And I think, to your point, Alejandro, right? Like, it's special to have somebody else say it, but also it's important for us to say it ourselves. Yeah. And so for the listeners, it's like, when was the last time you thanked yourself, right? Like Snoop Dogg said, right? Last but not least, I want to thank myself, you know?
Thank me.
I want to thank me, you know? And so it's like, if you haven't, what parts of you are you ready to thank, right? Because I also think with therapy, there may be also parts of ourselves that we are mad at, or we haven't forgiven, or we're ashamed of, right? But I think, you know, it's like you work through the years, right? Like, what parts of you are you ready to say thank you to? What parts of you are you ready to forgive? What parts of you are you ready to hug? Whatever, right? But it doesn't have to be all at once, but just thinking today, what parts of me am I thankful for?
Definitely grad school also comes up for me.
See?
Yeah, it was a really tough time. I was in a relationship. Interesting enough, I was in a relationship during grad school, but it was because of him that I was in grad school, actually. If it wasn't for like his influence and his father's influence, that his father was the only person I knew in my environment, in my support system, that had a master's degree. Nobody in my family does. And his father did, and he was a big advocate, obviously, for continuing my education. And the relationship I was at that point, yeah, she definitely went for it, even though she had no idea what she was doing. But the partner I had at that point and his family were very, very supportive. Yeah. So that support system really helped me at that point, and I felt supported, felt seen, heard, and everything. So yeah, definitely helped me grow. Yeah.
One thing that Vidi and I are both doing right now, as both of you know, is we're teaching, right? We're teaching social workers, grad students. And part of the reason why I took on this was, yes, because I wanted to support students. I think it was such a tough time in my life, right? That I wanted to be able to offer a different approach, a different support for students. But I think the part of me that wanted to grow was also this like perfectionist in me of like, things don't always go as planned. We're navigating people, we're navigating a classroom. And so as much as I want to plan, somebody might have a lot to say. And so there goes my plan for the day, or I don't know. And I think that this version of me is really aware of the areas of growth that I need. And so I am proud of myself for doing that right now, for kind of taking on this challenge, knowing I would enjoy parts of it and I would be scared of others. I think my future self will be proud of current Kaylee for doing this too.
I think oftentimes when we think about like being proud, like the word of like success comes to my mind of like, oh, like once we reach this milestone, then, you know, I'll be successful, I'll feel good. But if we measure it backwards, that's kind of like what we're doing today, like how much power that holds, of like looking how far we've come. And the growth that has come in it. That's why we're all successful, not for what we have, but how far we have come in a lot of ways, which is really cool.